Are we good to go?
Nanika from Mobera side, we are good.
Okay, great. So, hi everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here today. I know we have planned this event in a very short time. So, thank you for cooperating with us and being here today in such a small time. Thank you, Mobera Foundation, for collaborating with us and being here. Thank you. Thank you, Vivek, for all the help. Thank you, Tejasvi, who introduced us to Mobera Foundation. Vishwada has been a great help throughout, and Bhamini and Anil are guest speakers. So we'll start today. I'll give a small introduction about Mobera Foundation and our guest speakers, and then we can continue with our workshop. Anil and Bhamini will take it over from there, and we are good to go. So, Mobera Foundation is a registered nonprofit organization based out of Hyderabad. They are working for human rights awareness for LGBTQ plus community through arts and events. The reason for today's workshop is to celebrate the Pride community, bust common myths and misconceptions, and discuss what each one of us can do for to be a good ally and build a more inclusive and healthy workplace free of any prejudice. An environment where each one of us can be proud of who we are and the way we are. So, one second, I'm getting a guest invite here. Yes. So, moving ahead, I'm going to introduce our speakers. We have Pamimini here. Please introduce her. We have, yes, so her pronouns are she and her. She is a visual artist, art teacher, mentor, businesswoman, writer, and a core member of Mobera Foundation. With her MBA degree and corporate experience, she runs her art business, works on various art forms, and has taught around 200 folks from all across the globe. Bhamini has been actively working on creating impact through awareness and financial independence. And we have Anil. His pronouns are they and them. Anil is a co-founder and vice president of Mobera Foundation, a member of Center of Feminist Politics, recruiting officer of Humsafar Trust, and a drag queen from Hyderabad. Hi, Anil. So
Hello.
this is from my part. So Bhavini and Anil, the stage is all yours. Please make yourself comfortable and start the workshop today.
All right. Thank you so much, Nanika, for the beautiful introduction. And hello, everyone. A very happy Pride Month. All I know we are at the end of June month, but it's nowhere late to celebrate the Pride Month.
Anil, I'm very sorry to interrupt at the middle, but can you just be a little wider to your camera because you're very close to the camera and I don't think we are able to give a picture of yours. Bami, can you confirm from the other side?
Yes, not visible fully, Anil.
Anil, maybe you can place your camera a little wider.
Is it fine now?
No.
How about now? Uh, can everyone hear me? Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Uh, is the camera is fine right now? My video is fine. I'm getting a lot of disturbance. All right. Now I don't see any now I don't hear any disturbance, and I hope that my video is proper right now. If anyone can give me the confirmation about the video and the audio, I can go ahead. All right, thank you, Bami. All right, people, thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, if uh, I would assume there are people from the community here, and you don't need to come out and say that you are part of the community, but stay stay in the closet, but celebrate with pride. Be proud of who you are, and that is the reason for the people who are in the closet or people who are out of the closet. Happy Pride Month once again, and it's a very good opportunity for us to celebrate the diversity and inclusiveness. And before I go ahead, I would like to know if anyone knows the story of Pride Month. Why do we celebrate? Every year you do, whenever June comes in, you hear a lot of brands changing their logos to rainbow colors, and you hear a lot of companies talking about Pride Month and all. Does anyone know why it is celebrated? I don't want it to be like a speech of mine. I want everyone to be part of this. So anyone, it's nowhere a wrong or correct answer. You can just you can just express your views on it, and I can give you the exact thing.
Yeah, we don't know the specifics, so I think it will be nice, Anil, if you can tell us a little bit about the history.
All right, no problem. So in United States of America, there was a pop culture. You know, we have lot. They have a lot of pop culture, and they welcomed trans women, trans men, and part of LGBT community also into the parties. And before United States of America had some laws against any violence of LGBT community, the police raided the pub parties and they have killed almost 10 to 15 people from the community. And then because of that, there was a riot happened in United States called as Stonewall riots. From then the struggle has begun. From then the rights for the freedom of LGBT community has begun in United States of America, and it is called as Stonewall riots. And the first step towards celebrating the June month as Pride Month. And if you might not know, yesterday was the exact date when it happened, and that is the reason June is considered as a Pride Month. Not only United States of America, but also globally we celebrate it as part of the community. Right. All right. So I've been telling about LGBTQIA plus community. So can anyone tell me what do you understand about that community? I mean, do you know already the terminologies or expansion of LGBTQIA plus community? Anyone?
It is
This
the
is not.
abbreviation of lesbian, gay, LGBT for bisexual, T for transgender, and Q for queer, and then there's a plus. So yes.
Okay, that's pretty correct. LGBTQ plus, but it is called as LGBTQIA plus because intersex and asexuals are also added to it. Although a lot of sexualities are added. Let me explain you more about what is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender person. Before I get into that, a lot of people think that when a gay person or when a man, in fact, is little feminine, we think that we call a lot of people call them chakka, nita, or hijra, koja, all these things, and mistreat them. Call them as transgender person, which is very incorrect. There is a lot of difference between a feminine gay and a trans woman or a trans woman. There comes L stands for lesbian, a woman who is in love with, who falls in love with another woman. And G stands for gay, a man who falls in love with another man. In the same way, bisexual, B for bisexual, where a woman or a man falls for both genders. But that doesn't mean that you have an option to marry or fall in love with two genders. You can fall in love with both of the genders, but at the end of the day, you have to select only one person. Don't get that. Oh my God, I love two genders, so I have that opportunity to get into two genders. Don't think that. And we have transgender, T for transgender persons. Transgender persons is a very vast subject. It is divided into two parts. One part is called as trans women, and one part is called as trans men. I will tell you what exactly the difference is. I am born as a biological man, but my brain and my body doesn't suit each other. My body as a biological born as man, but my brain thinks that I'm a woman. Then I may identify different or I go through operation. Then I would call myself as trans woman under transgender umbrella, right? And the same thing goes with trans men. If I'm born as a woman biologically, but the same time my brain and my body doesn't suit together and thinks that I want to be a man, then I would either go for the transformation or I would identify myself as man. Then I would be called as trans men. When I'm saying I may identify or I might go through operation, I'm saying it because not every transgender person goes through operation or transformation. Because first thing, financial stability. They're not very rich to go through these kind of transformations. And second thing, health issues. Not everyone is very healthy to have that kind of health stability. So keeping these kind of risks in mind, few people go through operation and few people may not. But they still identify themselves as trans women or trans men respectively. And when I said it is not only about LGBT, we have Q. Q is an umbrella term for all the sexualities and genders. Like I identify myself as gay, but there are some people who doesn't want to fit themselves into some gender certain boxes or sexuality boxes. Then they will be identifying or they will be calling themselves as queer. So it is a basic term, an umbrella term for all the people who doesn't want to fit themselves into any kind of boxes. And while we're coming about intersex, intersex are those people who are born with two genitals. You might be wondering, does there people exist? Yes. In school, you might have learned about X chromosomes, Y chromosomes, XY chromosomes, all this. You don't see them very often, but there are people who exist, and those people are called as intersex people. And I also mentioned about A. A stands for asexuals. Asexuals can be homosexual or heterosexual. Again, homosexuals are LGBTQI plus community people, and heterosexuals are straight people who marries or loves the opposite gender. So they might asexuals can be present in both of these communities, and asexuals are those people who are not interested to involve in any kind of sexual activities. And yes, those people exist, and this also proves that LGBT community is not about sexual flavors. It's all about love. Love, loving another person, irrespective of what other person's gender and sexuality is. And this is what is LGBTQIA plus community. I know it's a very vast subject and it's really hard to understand in a second or a time. But it's good to know. And if you have any questions regarding this, you can go ahead and I can clarify before I go on to the next topic. I don't want this session to be like I just came here for a speech and I gave the speech and I left. I want everyone to be involved.
I have one question. I wanted to know, like, is there how if like as you said, it is a wide spectrum, right? So it's not like it is so black and white that anybody can identify themselves as a male or a female or whatever. So is there any assessment to know if somebody is in doubt, right? That how does somebody know that uh, are they falling in the spectrum, or where do they fall?
So it's all about whom you love. So that is what my next topic is about: sex, gender, and sexuality. There is a lot of difference. So let me jump into that so that your question can be answered. So sex is a very taboo word in the country where we don't usually use because we feel shy. Though our population is 130 billion, we still feel shy about talking about sex, and we should not feel. And when I'm talking about sex, sex is something which is assigned to you at the time of birth. It is not your gender identity. And as per our society norms, so male, female, and transgender, or it is even transgender is not considered as sex. Sex is only about female and male at the time of birth, which we are assigned into two different parts, which is called as sex. And then when we talk about gender, gender is all about how you want to identify yourself. You can identify yourself as male, female, trans woman, trans man, gender non-conforming person, gender fluid. Lot of things exist. And how do you know that where you belong is something with whom you are attracted to? Is what sexuality is. So if you are liking a man, if you are a man and if you're loving or if you fall in love with the opposite gender, like female, then you can consider yourself as a heterosexual person who wants to be in love with or wants to marry with opposite gender. But if as a man, if I'm loving the same sex, same gender person, or I'm
Anil, you there?
I think there is a technical disturbance at Anil's end. Maybe I will ask them to rejoin. Okay.
Sure. While Anil is rejoining, I would like to address your question, Vivek.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you asked about how does one understand or how does one identify if the person falls in the spectrum of LGBTQIA plus, or if the person is from the heterosexual community. The thing is, it is not something which is easily identifiable. We have been conditioned to believe that we are either male or female. So all over all the entire life we have been told that you fall in either of the categories, and at the same time we are also kind of a condition that a man or a man who is assigned the male gender at birth falls in love with, or has an attraction only with the opposite gender. This is how we have been conditioned. So the minute somebody thinks about this for a while, the minute somebody questions this for a while, that this is not how I feel, this is not what my mind and my body is telling me, the minute that thing happens, there is a scope of one exploring it further. And the minute one starts exploring and understanding oneself better, this is when the person identifies that if I fall within the spectrum of LGBTQIA plus, or if I am a straight person. So it is a gradual process. Most of the times, this identification usually happens around the time of puberty or even before that. In fact, some of the stories of coming out usually suggest that from the age group of around 6 to around 13, most of them have a basic idea if I am heterosexual or if I'm not. So when I say heterosexual versus not, one can easily identify that I am not heterosexual. But what I am is that's an ocean. So somebody actually takes a dive in that, tries to introspect, tries to understand: am I pansexual? Am I homosexual? Am I asexual? That does take a lot of time, and that is just an introspection over anything else. If I were able to answer your question.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Also, Bamini, just like the way you said, majority of the times you can identify such characteristics at younger age, like the spectrum you mentioned. But I think there are certain cases where it will be identified at later point of time, maybe after 15 or something like that. So I see there's a great pressure on people, to deliver such things to the parents or maybe whoever it's so. So Like, what is the percentage of such cases being identified, especially talking about the age?
Okay. The Hi Anil, you're back. So I'm just answering Tejasvi's question. The thing is, when it comes to statistics, interestingly, statistics is very less available for the LGBTQIA spectrum. And especially when you talk about what percentage of people actually realize it a little late, the thing is, majority of the people do realize it as and when they are growing up. So around the age of 5 to around the age of 13, they do realize. But mostly, since we have been conditioned that way, that we think that no, this is not right, most of the times we keep telling ourselves this thing that no, there's something wrong, it was just a phase, or maybe it was just impulsive, I just felt it for a moment. And we keep staying in denial. Gradually over time, there will be one time when we start feeling that this is not me and it's high time. That can be in the 50s, in the 60s also, that can be in the 40s also, in the teenage also. It does not have an age as such. Over
I
to you,
think
Anil.
there are
Yes.
also famous cases like Freddie Mercury, the Queen's singer. So there are cases where they have married, they have thought that they are a heterosexual person and they have married someone of the opposite sex. But maybe in their 40s or 50s, after being with a partner of different sex, they have realized that no, this is not their interest. So cases like that has also happened. So I think there is no right or wrong time to come out of the closet.
Yes. So first of all, I'm extremely sorry. My network got disconnected. I'm thankfully back. So to this question, there is no age limit or there is no certain time where you want to identify yourself into different gender or sexuality because first thing is lack of awareness and lack of resources of education about community. We tend to not identify very fast. I know personally there are people who identified themselves into different gender or sexuality at the age of 60. And I know few people who identified at the age of 10. So there is no certain age limit ki when you want to identify or when you cannot identify. It's all about when you learn things. It's all about when you realize about things. It doesn't happen in some for some people it takes years, like a couple of years. For some people it takes decades, like 10, 20 years. Also, it might take for you to identify, realize, and acknowledge. So that is the main important. I hope
I
I
think
answered
our
it.
I think our
Yes,
society
yes.
also plays a very important role here, especially in developing countries like India, where we haven't been taught of different sexualities. We don't know what to do, and since childhood we only have male and female, these two genders available to us, and we have to fit ourselves into one of them. I think the society acts as a barrier here. So even if you think that you don't belong to just the male and the female category, we might not be able to come out because of the society, because they don't allow us to do so. Because in foreign countries, it's not a big deal, and also the society or your parents, your family, they are much more supporting than what we have here. I'm not saying everyone is like that here, but I would say majority.
Correct.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. It also depends on which. It doesn't depend on education level of your parents. It only depends on how they value your identity, how they respect how you want to live your life. Because having so many freedom laws in United States of America, there are some states where if you are open about your about your identity, you might get shot and you might get killed. And there are certain places in India where they are openly accepted in our cities, in international cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, and many more. We are able to at least come out and talk about this. At the same time, we have our own villages and towns where we are not able to talk. Yes, Vivek.
No, so yeah, I think the problem also is our assumption or presumption that this is being anywhere in the community is not a natural thing. It is, so basically our belief is that it is either any person is either a male or a female, and a male can only fall in love with a female, and a female can only fall with love. That is the only natural or the right way. Anything else is your mind playing games, which is like you can control or you can change. That is a belief that we have. So when as a, like, as we see somebody, or maybe as a parent, if like if you see your child, you will freak out, or you will think that this is wrong and you have to fix it. So somehow, whether how you fix it, I don't know, but people think that it is something that has to be fixed. It cannot, it is not natural, and it is something that has to be addressed. So, and that is coming from the belief system that it is something that is not natural and is something wrong.
Absolutely. Adding to this note, Vivek ji, I would also tell you that if people who think that it is unnatural, they have to question themselves, who are we to decide what is natural and what is unnatural? Because we have been taught that a male, we have been seeing that a male, because you are a male, you have to marry opposite gender, and if you are a woman, you have to marry other opposite gender. That is what we are taught, or that is what we have been seeing. That is the reason we are considering it as natural. And what we don't know, or what we are neglecting to acknowledge, is what we are considering it as unnatural. That is what we have to question ourselves and think beyond those boundaries and think beyond those boxes. That is when you will get to know. And a lot of people think that this is a mental disorder, this can be treated. Having so much of technology in this 21st century, a lot of people still think that this can be treated with machines. So, gender identity or sexualities are about love and how you want to identify yourself. It doesn't change with the machines or whatever the technology we have. So, if you come across any such kind of things, do not trust them, because this doesn't have anything to do with those machines which we create as humans.
And in adding
Thank
to, yes, Vivek, please go on.
No, no, I just said thank you.
Anil, adding to your point, in fact, while you were talking about natural, right? You were talking about what is natural. It just clicked my mind that there can be a controversy. What do I call it? A controversy theory that population explosion is because we have considered heterosexual relationships as normal. Right. So there is no way to understand what is normal actually. And we have been using two terms repeatedly over time, subconsciously. One is natural and second one is normal. None of them are the right conduct. Nothing is normal, nothing is abnormal, nothing is natural or unnatural. As long as it is not something that is harmful to others, it is, if it is about you, about how you feel, how your gender orientation is, it can just never be wrong. Yes, Anil.
Absolutely. The same way, like how they people think that it is natural or normal is. Let me get into little debatable concept of, what majority feels is correct, and what about the minorities? So in that case, people with Islamic countries where Islam is major, lot of they should treat minorities as aliens then. And in India, if we have Hindu population major, we should not bother about minorities. We should not treat them as humans. Is what your theory is? That we have lot of majority people marrying opposite gender. That is the only reason it is valid. And we have different genders or sexualities which are minorities, and we don't care about. So your theory doesn't is not valid, doesn't exist, and doesn't get any acceptance. So it's all about love, and it's all about how you identify yourself as. That is what gender is all about. Any questions regarding gender? Or
Guys, anybody has
if
any
anyone if
questions, please
anyone
ask.
if anyone have heard about any gender name, like apart from female, male, transgender person, if you have heard anything, any other name, please tell me, and we can talk about it. if you don't know or if you want to know. I hope this is not Shweta's Zoom call. Guys,
So,
let's talk.
so another thing that I think we face a lot of issues with is pronouns because we are so much used to calling with him and her. We don't know how to use other pronouns. So
Okay,
I think this gets very difficult. I won't say it gets difficult, but we aren't used to this. So I think it's including me as well. I would not lie. When I have to address a person, automatically into my mind it's him or her. That is how we have grown up. So we are also changing with time, and I think everyone should change with time. But this pronoun thing, this is I'm not sure if everyone is accustomed to this.
sure. All right, then let's talk about pronouns. Before talking about pronouns, we should talk about gender normal language or equal. When we talk about gender equality, we should always find that kind of language where we treat everyone equally. So imagine when you have a meeting with your manager, and your manager comes and greets you. Hey guys. So is he only representing guys in the room, or he's saying hi to everyone, irrespective of whatever the gender is? So guys are usually referred to none. So why only guys? What about females then? Is he ignoring the fact that females also are present in the room or meeting? Or he's just ignorant that I'm a male, or I'm only considering that I want to address male. So rather than guys, it's always good to use people. Hello people, where you can include. It is so inclusive that you are including everyone in the meeting. And not everyone comes out saying that, hey, you know what, my gender is this and you have to call me this. Not everyone are very comfortable opening up in the meeting or room. So it's always good to use gender equal languages where you don't need to specifically focus on one gender or sexuality. And coming to pronouns, we usually hear about he or him or she or her, right? Where he is given to man and she is given to woman. What about transgender person? They don't want to fit. They don't consider themselves to be called as he or sometimes she also. That is the reason a pronoun has been introduced where it is called as they or them. And it is not only for transgender persons. We have gender non-conforming people. Oh, you might get a question. What is gender non-conforming? People who doesn't want to fit themselves into any gender boxes, which is me. I identify myself as gender non-conforming person, where I want to wear anything I want to. This is my body, my rights. I'm happy with wearing my t-shirt and pants. I'm happy with wearing a sari. It's my body. So I don't want to fit anywhere into these gender norms. And that is what gender non-conforming is. Gender fluid. Gender fluid, you can easily get into the name itself, the fluid which passes by. It doesn't have any specific gender at one point of time. And these are the different genders which are available in the community, and they do not want to refer as he or she. And what do we call them? They or them. If you see in local languages, in Telugu or Hindi, in Telugu we call it as to give respect, we name it as Varu. Ikkada Varu Unnaru. Varu is just a translative form of them or they. It's like we are not fitting themselves into boy or girl, but we are respecting their identity too at the same time. They or them is what most of the gender non-conforming, gender fluid, or non-binary people usually prefer to be called as. And some of the transgender person also. Like a lot of trans women, they want to call themselves as a she or her. Or a lot of trans men who want to referred as he or him. And we have they or them. And also we have Z. Z is also one of the pronoun where gender non-binary people want to be referred as. So we have four pronouns: he, she, they, ze. I hope I was clear. And if there are any questions regarding this,
So what is the difference between they and Z?
so when I mentioned there are very vast amount of genders in the community. Few people want themselves to be identified as they, and few people want themselves to be identified as Z. There is no certain difference ki why these people want to identify like this only, but it's their identity, how they want to be referred as. That's it.
And also, like I have seen some people writing she/they. So so that also I found confusing, that like they are not saying they and them, they are saying she and they. So what's
Example, I'm a woman, and as per the society, my pronouns are she. But I'm also my sexuality might be demisexual, asexual, or any kind of sexual where I want to fit myself into they or them also. So you can either refer to me as she or them. In the same way, if I was a man and I identify different, to make it comfortable for everyone, you can refer to me as he or them. That is the thing. As a human, you can have two or three pronouns at the same time. It is not mandatory that you should only have one pronoun. Like I do drag shows, and when I do drag shows, I always prefer to call as she, not as he or they, because that is what I identify as. Because my drag form is as a woman, and when I'm in a woman form, I would definitely not feel comfortable called as he or them. I would obviously prefer myself as she, as a woman complete, right? So my pronouns are not restricted to one particular pronoun. I have two or three pronouns which are to be included, and that is the reason you will see profiles adding he or them or she or them or they or ze. That is Vivek ji, आप म्यूट पे बात करिए.
yeah. No, I think thanks for clarifying that, but it can be confusing for people to get used to.
It is confusing because of lack of awareness. It will be
Correct.
easy when we know about it and when we talk about it, because he or
Correct.
she, we often talk about it, we often use it. That is the reason we don't feel confusion, we don't feel difficulty. And these they and ze are the terms which are pretty new to the whole world, that people feel in the first stage you will definitely feel little difficult. Example, you have been working with this organization and you may in future shift to another organization. Seeing that work, you will definitely feel difficult, right? Or to settle yourself in the organization, you'll feel difficult, you'll feel trouble, and you'll feel confused about where to go, what to do, what not to do. In the same way, pronouns also acts the same way. Like the more you use it, the more you feel comfortable. The more you talk about it, the more it will be easy for you to accept it.
Got it.
All right. So far we have learned about LGBTQI plus abbreviations, terminologies, and difference of sex, gender, and sexuality, and pronouns. So what I always tell you all is, whenever you mention anything, like Vivek ji has mentioned, he has been seeing profiles mentioning about their pronouns. Please mention your pronouns wherever possible. And mentioning your pronouns in your profile doesn't mean that you are part of LGBT community, but you are in fact sending a positive message to the community that you are okay and you are fine to accept their gender and pronouns. But also sense a silence. Being silent, you are also talking to them, sending positive vibes that I'm fine, I'm a free space to come out and talk about it. So the other person also will feel comfortable and will be more friendly or will feel more comfortable while they address about their sex, gender, or sexuality or pronouns. That's it. Any questions? You can go ahead. Over to you, Bhavani.
Thank you so much, Anil. while we were talking about so many different things and we were talking about how conditioning actually affects us. So there was this one thing that I came across that, you know, how many of you have either asked, say we are referring to a woman right now. So how many of you have asked them, uh, are you dating somebody? Instead of that, do you have a boyfriend? Have we ever used the term, do you have a partner? Right. So, you know, in the hindsight, we've already made an assumption that the person is heterosexual. Why is that so? They never came to us saying that they are heterosexuals. And I wanted to understand from all of you, and you can write this in the chat box or unmute yourself and answer. What do you understand about coming out? Because we have been talking about this, like while there was a discussion about it, we were talking about coming out to others and, you know, talking about your sexuality. What is coming out to you? Anything that comes to your mind. No right answer or wrong answer.
Coming out in about genders and our sorry coming out in case of genders means that they are aware of their sexuality, and in case if they were thinking, say suppose I'm a woman and all these while I thought I was a heterosexual, and uh, eventually I realized that I'm not. So coming out means I come out and I tell people that I am not a heterosexual. I am someone of different community or gender.
Okay. Anyone else? I
Freedom
see.
of expression, maybe expressing what kind of gender I'm or my interest is into.
Expression to others or self?
Self and others. Firstly, it's self and then others.
Rest, what do you think coming out is?
I think it is to accepting yourself also, right? Because sometimes we ourselves, okay, it is again a guesswork, but yeah, it is something that we convince ourselves ki yes, we are different. And I don't know if different is the right word, but yeah.
Not as per the norm set by the society.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's actually very tricky. It's a tricky road. It's a slippery road when we say coming out. The thing is that when we are heterosexual people, when we are heterosexuals, we never ever go out and, you know, tell this to our best friends that, hey, you know what, I am homosexual. Hey, you know what, I'm gay. I'm lesbian. We never do. I mean, instead of that, we never say that I am straight. You know what, I am interested in the opposite gender. Do we do that? We don't, right? So the notion of somebody who is a co-worker or somebody who you know, and the person is not very vocal about their gender identity or their sexual orientation, it doesn't mean that they are hiding it. It's just because for them that is okay, and we've got to respect that. So coming out only means, first thing is being comfortable with yourself, accepting who you are. It does not always mean coming out and telling others that, you know, giving an announcement that I am, you know, not as per the norms that the society has taught us. So there's absolutely no need. In fact, for all of us who are here, this is a very important thing that we come out to ourselves. It is that is important. It is not important to others or to your parents or to your partners or to your you know, co-workers or whoever. That is not what the point is. There was a very interesting thing that we were talking about. Uh, yeah. So we talked about the fact that you know, this is some in a lot of foreign countries versus how it is in Indian communities, that in foreign countries we have more freedom of sexual orientation expression versus what it is in India. But it is an absolute myth, and this has been conditioned over the last few centuries only. This is not how the Indian community has always been. This is not how India has always been. We were very proud of who we have always been, the sexualities, the different sexes, the different orientations. For example, if we talk about Kama Sutra, that is one thing which is so peculiar to India. If you talk about openly embracing one's sexuality that has been very peculiar to India. And that is something that, nowadays it's being said that it is because of Western influence that people are kind of, moving more towards different sexual orientations than them limiting themselves to heterosexual orientation or being just male and female. It is not like that. That's a very, very generic notion and a wrong notion. This morning, in fact, we had a session with Wipro. It was about employment, and there were a few points that were raised, which was quite appropriate to raise there, and it was about sensitization, awareness, and employability. Uh, so before we move on to that part, I wanted to understand from you all. You can write this message in the chat box. What are the genders that one can assign to the color black? What are the genders that one can assign to the color black? Whatever comes to your mind. Come on, folks.
I'm not sure if we are aware of that.
Any gender that you want to assign to the color black. There is, what comes to your mind? Like, for example, red, you automatically assign a certain gender to it. So what gender do you assign to black color? It can be anything. What gender do you assign to pink color? She, okay. Others? And don't think too much. Just type whatever comes naturally to you right now. Her, usually. She, pink. And what? And what color do you assign to blue? And what gender do you assign to blue color? Black male and pink female, okay? Blue male. Right from the birth of the child, from, giving gifts to this baby, be it clothes, be it toys, we have been dividing the baby before even the baby identifies what gender the person wants to, be comfortable in. We are dividing into blue versus pink, dividing into two genders. How fair is that? Right? And that is how it just gets conditioned in our mind forever. This is what we kind of box ourselves into. So it was something just to bring in the subconscious bias, which otherwise we fail to understand. Colors do not have a gender. Colors should not have a gender. As a visual artist, I can tell you this, that the color pink is about nurture. And nurture can be anybody's characteristic. It does not have to be a male versus female characteristic. And the color blue is the color of aspirations. Any gender can have any aspirations. It is not dependent on the gender of the person. Yes, Vivek, you had a question.
No. I was just agreeing to whatever you were saying, that how strong association we have done for pink and blue. It is very, yeah.
While starting, Nanika, you were saying something?
Yeah, so I was quite surprised myself when you said about that nurture part and the aspirations part, because to be honest, I didn't know that either. So I'm assuming a lot of people didn't know that either. Thank you.
So there was this thing that I wanted to talk about, that when you gave an introduction about Anil and me, you had mentioned about the corporate field, and that was important because being from the corporate space, I have witnessed some of the extremely weird, bizarre scenarios which we do not really realize has a deep impact on other people. I will give you a case study or an example on, and you can tell me what is wrong in that. So there was this get together where a lot of folks, around 8 people, had gathered, and everybody was talking to each other and about each other. And there was this one person who was being targeted because the way the person worked was not as per the norms set by the society. What do you think would be this person's reaction when the person knows that I'm being targeted here? Will that be in any way constructive? We really do not realize how much of pressure that adds on to the performance of this person, to efficiency of the person, to the intent of being a part of the organization, and on so many different levels. Most of the times we think that people from within the community are very prone to mental instability. That's a very common notion that is said, that they are very sensitive people. The reason is that because they are quote unquote different, they have been victimized or they have been targeted so much that they actually go into a closet without other people even realizing that it is happening. Yes, Vivek. Okay. Any questions, anyone? Since we were now talking about the experiences of people from the community, it is important that we kind of also address what can be done and how can we be better allies, or how can we provide a better atmosphere to the people who are coming out to us, who are being vocal about their gender identities. How do we ensure that? Anyone, just one example, anyone. So tell us one example in which you can be a good ally.
Bhamini, is that okay if we can give just a gist of what exactly ally means and how is it used in community? Because most of us may not be aware of what exactly the terminology is.
Okay, ally is basically someone who supports the concept of LGBTQIA plus equality. So they are the people who, in general, are supporters of human rights, and specifically who believe in equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal status, socio-political and economic status of all the people from all spectrums of gender. So how do you think you can support, or how do you think you can be a good ally?
Treat
I
everybody
think,
as
oh,
equal
sorry.
despite. So,
No, no, please say just me.
yeah. So, despite of whatever the gender we are differentiating, treating on equal rights on whatever the term it may be,
Okay,
that would be the best part.
okay. What else?
Yes, I agree with Tejasvi. I was going to say the same thing. I think the best way to accept them is to be uh, indifferent. So by indifferent, what I mean is being equal. So we don't have to treat them as anything special or unnatural. If we treat them as equal, as something uh, that is acceptable in the society, to they can express their views and we can accept them the way we are. I think that that's the best way to be a good ally. That can be in our family, in organization, anywhere, if they're treated equally.
Treated equally, treated respectfully, uh, as an individual commands that respect. So, what do you all think? Okay, anyone? Allies may not be required to be labeled as an ally, but show it in actions. That's very well said, Visweda. Showing love instead of sympathy. Well, sympathy is a tricky word actually. How else do you think you can be a good ally? right? If we cannot respect, at least not disrespect them. Um, well, everybody has different opinions and different perspectives. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Am I audible?
You are, yes.
Yeah. So I think letting them be, right, and respecting them as individual and letting them be. So I think I would not say sympathize, because again, sympathy is coming from an assumption that there is something wrong with them, and you are just trying to let them be in a way that it is okay type. So there is not, we have to acknowledge there is nothing wrong, as we said that there is nothing normal, right? There is nothing just in our head. So treating them as individuals, as equals, and have giving them equal rights, which we ourselves enjoy. So giving them the same platform is what I think.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
I
Thank
think
you.
one
Yes.
becomes very
Hmm.
overwhelmed. See, suppose you're working in an organization and you come out as someone homosexual or someone who is not heterosexual, is what I mean. So sometimes you're treated so differently and in a very special way. I think that becomes very overwhelming. So you don't have to treat them in a different way or in a something in an extraordinary way. How we treat other employees, if they are treated in the same way, I think that makes a difference in itself.
Absolutely. And since you mentioned about treating them a little differently, or giving an overwhelming response to them, I think one of the common mistakes that we most of the times end up doing is intruding in the personal spaces, and that is something which is highly, it's a complete no for everybody. We just do not go out and ask to heterosexual beings about their personal lives, about their sexual lives, about everything that is very personal to people, unless they would like to talk about it. None of us have the rights to talk about anything which is extremely personal to them. So that is a complete no no. Not intruding into the personal spaces is one of the best ways to respecting individuals. So I think we have covered quite a lot of things, and let us wait for questions now. Folks, any questions that you would like to talk about, any related to anything about, if a case like somebody comes out to you and says that, hey, you know what, I don't think I'm straight, how do you react? So any questions of you, I mean, whatever you would like to ask.
I just have one point, Bhavini. Usually, when somebody who's not into this heterosexual thing, people always, maybe somebody get depressed or they're completely low, and that's where like there are few people who actually don't know on how to proceed with their career despite of their interest. And there's always there the stereotype that if somebody who's into especially LGBT community, they'll always find fashion as their path and nothing else. So that could be, the reason could be maybe because in corporate or any other sectors, there's no possibility. I mean, there's not an equal encouragement coming. Would you like to add few words like how's the trend changing? Because you might have better idea about this.
If I got it right, Tejasvi, you were mentioning that more people from the LGBTQIA plus community inclined towards creative fields than the desk jobs, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Okay. The thing is, in organizations where it is more about conducting in a certain way, talking in a certain way, being in a certain way, wearing clothes in a certain way, every single thing, even the hairstyle for that matter, in a certain way, if that is how the overall conduct is, it is extremely restrictive for the people. So most of the times we end up spending majority of our times in our workspaces, no matter what the workspace is, no matter what the what the field of profession is, but we end up spending a lot of our times in the professional setup. So if our majority of the life revolves around it being extremely dictated or it being extremely narrow minded, in that scenario it kind of becomes more like a suffocation for somebody. If I am a person who is gender non-conforming and most of the times I'm asked to wear pants and shirts, I probably wouldn't really like to go to office for that reason, right? Because the gender assigned to me is male and I don't really feel that way. So how would that work? It wouldn't, right? So in order to avoid all this pressure, most of the time people do not like to take up jobs. That is one of the reasons. Second reason is uh, their inclination towards things which are considered, uh, you know, a little non-conventional is also because they are extremely creative. So first thing is they understand the fact that there's nothing like a fixed way of going ahead things and going ahead for the things, and there are things beyond black and white. There is a gray area. So for when somebody kind of explores and accepts the fact that I myself am not abiding by black and white, I know that there is something in between. So for them, even for their professional life, that does hold true, which is probably one of the major reasons of people exploring different fields of profession than just limiting themselves to the corporate spectrum. And this also is, something more about both the parties and not just about the individuals take on it. It is also about how conducive, how friendly the environment is for the organization, and that also plays a very important role.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, any questions, people? Anything? Ask questions.
Most of the times, we also discriminate the LGBTQ plus community by very trivial things, like maybe uh, how they're dressing up or if they are wearing makeup. But we don't understand that this is very normal. I mean, if someone is so okay, let me give you an example. So suppose if there's a guy who has done makeup, we immediately assume that they belong to the LGBTQ community and we start calling him gay, stuff like that. And everyone does it, like most of the population, right? But we don't understand that there is nothing wrong with makeup. Straight men can also do makeup. And we have assigned these kind of things. Like I'll give you an example. When I was doing my masters, there was a professor. He was a brilliant person, very educated, very qualified. So he used to come to our college wearing chinos. You know what chinos are, right? Those tight trousers. And people would just immediately assume that he's gay. I mean, we don't have a proof. We don't know if he's really gay or he belongs to any other gender. We don't know that. It's just our assumptions, and people would call him names. I think these are very small, small things that we do unintentionally or intentionally that affects a lot.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons why that happens is we have been told forever that men behave in a certain way and women behave in a certain way, and what is not as per the norms is something which kind of needs to be called out for, and in not a very positive way. So which is why we always have this categorization. We always like to put things in boxes, and not when something does not fit in the said box, we think that this is wrong, this is a defective piece, and that's what we end up doing. And it is not only wrong on multiple levels, but at the same time all of us want to live in a society which is healthy, not just for ourselves, for everybody around us, for our family, for our friends, for our children, for our parents, for everybody. We like to have a healthy society, and we, if ourselves are not willing to make that conscious effort to make it a better place, then I think we are doing a mistake there of not being that change. So Anil, if you are there, would you like to talk about anything else? Any questions from
Uh,
your side?
yeah, so while we are talking about coming out, it is not, remember people, it is not mandatory to come out, because not every heterosexual goes to their parents, relatives, and everywhere elsewhere to tell that, hey mom, hey dad, hey friends, I'm straight, I'm heterosexual person. So they don't say this. So why, as part of this community, you have to say this every single day, every single time? No, you don't need to. You don't need to let the world know what you identify yourself as. Keep it yourself. And if you feel that, There is a place where it is required to know, like your parents are forcing you to marriage. You do not want to spoil your own life. At the same time, you do not want to spoil another's life, another girl or a woman or anyone's life. Then, if you want to tell to your parents, you can go ahead and tell. Because coming out is not easy, and coming out can be risky sometimes. People can attack you. Your own parents can make you take you to doctor, go through shock treatments, lot of gender therapy sessions, lot of things are happening. So it is really not compulsory to come out every single time, everywhere, but accept yourself. Come out to yourself. Identify what you are. That's more than enough. That's it. And if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and ask.
No, I think those are very important things that you said, Anil. So I think we all should make note of that. That accepting ourselves is the most important thing, because if we are fighting that, then it can be very detrimental for anybody who is going through that.
Uh,
And yeah, and I think that's very
and
important.
one more important thing, if your friends or anyone comes out to you stating that, hey, you know what, I'm gay, or hey, you know what, I'm lesbian, or anyone from the community, do not show them sympathy. Oh my God, you are from this community. I feel so sad for you. No, there is nothing to be sad for being him or her or they to be part of this community. In fact, give them that empathy and show him or her or them that love, that thanks for trusting me. Because sometimes, not every time we are comfortable to share it to our own parents because of a lot of things. And if a person is coming out to you as a friend or a relative, feel so privileged that he is giving you a lot of importance in his or their or her life, and never show sympathy to them, because this is not a space, or this is not a platform, or this is not a thing to show or get sympathy for. If you are showing sympathy, even though you are not against to it, you are sending a negative vibe that this is something, something not acceptable, and your friend or your relative belong to this, and you are sympathetic to it. So don't show that sympathy. In fact, give them more love. Be friend to them. Talk to them normally. Don't treat them something special. Or don't ask them, can you be my gay friend? Can you be my lesbian friend in my group? Don't ask them. It doesn't make any sense. What if a gay group people come and say, can you be my heterosexual friend? Can you be my straight friend? How do you feel about it? Or if someone says, oh my God, you're heterosexual. Oh my God, you're straight. How did this happen? When did this happen? Oh, these are the questions which should not be asked. So please remember that.
And when did you realize that you were straight? I think we are good to wrap up this session now if there are no more questions. Over to you, Nainika.
Yes, thank you, Bhavini. So we are almost at the end of the session. Anyone has any questions, please ask now. Vivek, you're saying something?
No, no, no. I was just saying that yeah, some very interesting thoughts came up, and like I think we learned some
Yes, we are.
something.
Yeah, we are so glad we did this session. So even if no one asks any question, I'm sure if they had any doubts in their mind which they didn't want to ask even, that was cleared with this session.
Correct, correct.
Yes.
And if you are thinking that you are not very comfortable to talk in this platform, you can always reach out to us. It is very good to know rather than keeping it to yourself. So you can always reach out to us in our platform so that we can help you in any ways possible.
So I'll share your organization's link in this group. So anyone who wants to talk to you all, they can. Yes. Any more questions from your end? I think we are good to go then.
Yeah.
So
So
thank you,
I
Anil. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just want to thank Anil, Vishwada, and Bhamini. So thank you so much for uh, doing this session for us. We really appreciate it. It is just a beginning. I think it's a very important topic and something that we don't talk about. So yeah, it is not strange that it's difficult to open up and ask a lot of questions, but at least we have made a start. And I think we can do more sessions based on the interest where we can ask more open questions and explore better. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are very thankful to the whole team of this because it is very important for us to take these baby steps so that we can create our space very inclusive and diversified so that everyone get respected. So we are very thankful and thank you for inviting us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Anil. Thank you,
Thank you so
Vishwada. Thank
much.
you, Bhamini.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Take care.